My name is Naomi Price, and the night everything shifted began with something as ordinary as a forgotten wallet. It was close to midnight when I slipped on my coat, tucked Caleb's leather wallet into my purse, and ordered a ride to Dallas International Airport. I believed I was simply being a good wife, saving his early morning business trip from disaster. Nothing felt unusual. Nothing felt dangerous. The ride arrived within minutes. A black sedan, quiet and clean, with a middle-aged black driver whose temples showed streaks of gray. He barely spoke. He kept his eyes moving between the road ahead and the mirror that reflected me. The silence inside that car felt heavier than the darkness outside. When we reached the airport grounds, he did not pull up to the bright and crowded main entrance as every driver does. Instead, he moved slow, almost too slow, toward the far end of the terminal. That section was darker, colder, several lights flickering or burned out. My heart thudded. I gripped the door handle, ready to get out and hurry inside. But the handle did not move. I pulled harder, still locked. My breath hitched. I asked him to open the doors. No answer. I begged. His voice finally came low, tense, trembling with urgency. "Mom, do not get out of this car. Please, trust me. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes." I froze, confused, scared. Seconds crawled like hours. And then it happened. 5 minutes later, 3 police cruisers stormed the lane with sirens slicing through the silence, surrounding the very spot I had been desperate to step onto. That night, I thought I was saving my husband's trip. I did not know I was saving my own life. Before that night, my life looked picture perfect from the outside. I had been married to Caleb Price for 3 quiet, comfortable years. People called us the kind of couple that never raised their voices, always smiled at dinners, always held hands in photos. He was polished, well-spoken, gentle when he wanted to be. No one would have imagined storms beneath his skin. I certainly did not. I grew up the only daughter of Richard Price, founder of one of the largest private shipping companies in Texas. My father worked hard, built his success from nothing, and raised me to believe in generosity, loyalty, and marriage built on trust. When he passed, the company shares, properties, and accounts came into my name. Sometimes I wondered if I had earned any of it or if I was just lucky to be his daughter. Caleb entered my life during that fragile year after the funeral. He was warm and reassuring. He helped me sleep again, eat again, laugh again. Loving him felt like oxygen after months of grief. I married him believing I had finally found peace. And then there was Lauren Miller, my best friend of nearly a decade. We shopped together, volunteered together, spent weekends with wine and movies on my sofa. I used to call her my sister in everything but blood. Looking back now, I can see signs I ignored. Strange comments, disappearing hours. Moments where I felt excluded in rooms where I should have belonged. But when you love people, you soften red flags into excuses. That blindness almost cost me my life. The night Caleb packed for his supposed business trip, nothing seemed strange. He moved through his office in a rush, printing documents, tossing files, dropping pens like he had too much on his mind. He kissed my forehead with a hurried apology for leaving on short notice. I helped fold shirts, pack toiletries, and button his briefcase without asking questions. Blind trust is easy when you believe you are loved. An hour after he left for the airport, I returned to tidy his desk. Papers were scattered in careless stacks, drawers half opened. I smoothed everything back into order, then noticed a black corner peeking beneath a folder. It was his wallet. Inside were his ID, credit cards, debit card, and more cash than he ever carried. My heart lurched. How would he board a flight with no identification? How would he check into his hotel or pay for transportation? I called him 5 times. 5 rings, no answer. I told myself he might be in line, phone on silent, talking to a colleague. The more I reassured myself, the more nervous I felt. The wall clock read 12:20. His flight was scheduled for 2 a.m. If I left immediately, there was still time. I hated driving at night. Oncoming headlights made my vision blur, so I opened a ride app instead. A black sedan was nearby. Driver named Marcus. Arrival in 5 minutes. I slipped on my coat, tucked the wallet into my purse, and stepped out into the chilled Texas night. The street was silent. The sky looked too wide, too empty. When the car stopped, I thanked him softly and settled into the back seat. No radio. No conversation. Just the hum of tires against the highway and the weight of darkness pressing against the windows. 1 hour later, airport lights glowed like a small city ahead. I exhaled, relieved, already picturing Caleb's grateful face when I returned the wallet. The perfect wife helping the perfect husband. I thought I was heading toward him. I was actually driving straight into the truth. We reached the terminal, but Marcus did not pull into the bright drop-off lane crowded with luggage carts and travelers rushing to catch flights. Instead, he slowed the car to a crawl and continued, until the very end of the curb where lights flickered weakly, and the wind seemed to push through empty space. "Excuse me," I said, leaning forward, "I need the main entrance." He did not answer. I reached for the door handle, planning to walk the distance myself. It did not move. I tried again, harder. Locked. Every door. My breath caught in my chest. I tapped the window with the flat of my hand, then pounded with my fist. "Please let me out," I begged. "Please, just let me go inside." Marcus did not turn around. His eyes stayed fixed on the sidewalk as if he were waiting for someone. His knuckles whitened around the steering wheel. For a moment I feared I was trapped with a criminal. Then he spoke. "Ma'am, you cannot get out here. Do not open that door. Trust me for 5 minutes." The words terrified me more than the silence had. 5 minutes felt like a lifetime. I wanted to scream, run, force the door open, anything to escape the car I once thought was safe. But then the world split open. From both ends of the drive, flashing lights flooded the pavement. 3 police cruisers boxed us in, engines roaring, officers leaping out with weapons drawn. They were not surrounding Marcus's car, they rushed past us toward a shadow standing exactly where I would have stepped. In that instant, fear did not vanish, it changed shape. I had not been locked in with danger. I had been locked away from it. Officers moved with practiced precision, tackling the figure beside the concrete column. I watched through the glass, numb with disbelief, as they pinned a man to the ground, cuffed his wrists, and emptied his pockets. A folding knife hit the concrete, then a cloth damp, chemical-scented even from where I sat. I knew that smell. Chloroform, the kind used to make someone silent fast. One officer walked to our passenger window and spoke to Marcus in a tone I never expected to hear, respectful, familiar, prepared. Marcus finally exhaled, hands trembling not from threat but from relief. That was when he told me his real name and who he once served. Marcus Harris, head of personal security for my late father, Richard Price. He explained that before my father passed, he'd asked Marcus to watch over me quietly. Never interfere unless I was in danger. Tonight, he said, danger was not a possibility, it was planned. And then he told me something that hollowed my bones. Someone hired that man to abduct me the moment I stepped out of the car. My voice shook as I asked who could want me gone. Marcus didn't answer, not with his mouth. Instead, he lifted his hand and pointed toward the wide airport windows above us. There stood Caleb Price, my husband. Next to him, holding his arm, wearing red like a warning flare, was Lauren Miller, my so-called sister. Both stared down at the flashing police lights with fury, not fear. Not sorrow. Not relief that I was safe. In that moment, I understood. I was never meant to deliver that wallet. I was meant to disappear with it. Marcus drove me away from the airport as quietly as he had arrived. I stared out the window, watching the night blur into streaks of light and shadow, while everything I believed about my marriage came undone like loose thread. Caleb's face in the glass building was burned behind my eyes, Lauren's hand on his arm. 2 suitcases waiting, not for business but escape. Marcus told me to open the wallet again. My fingers shook as I slid everything out: a second-time ID, debit card, credit card, cash, all untouched. 2 untouched. Beneath the bills was a folded paper, crisp like it had been prepared for someone else to find. 1-way plane tickets. 2 seats. Caleb Price and Lauren Miller. My pulse hammered in my throat. Marcus urged me to check deeper, beneath the card slots. Hidden in a narrow pocket was another document, dense, official, heavy with intent. A recent life insurance policy under my name. A number large enough to buy freedom, luxury, a new start. Beneficiary Caleb. Another slip of paper came next, more dangerous than the first: power of attorney transferring ownership of our home and a downtown commercial property into Caleb's name. My signature was at the bottom, except it wasn't mine. Someone had forged my future with ink. Cold washed through me. Love did not break in a single moment, it shattered piece by piece, and I could feel each one cutting through the woman I used to be. Marcus's voice was steady, grounding. He doesn't know you know. That ignorance is your advantage. I closed the wallet slowly, the truth sitting heavy in my hands. The perfect life I thought I had was never mine. But my voice still was. When I stepped back into my house that night, nothing looked different, but I was. The woman who left to save her husband's trip was gone. The woman walking in now was steady, silent, and sharp in a way I never knew I could be. Marcus gave me a small device before I exited the car, no larger than a shirt button. A hidden microphone. He told me to place it somewhere Caleb wouldn't think to check, somewhere close to him every day. If Caleb spoke to anyone, planned anything, even whispered another lie, we would hear it. Inside, I washed my face, fixed my hair, and practiced a soft, sleepy smile in the mirror. When Caleb returned hours later, breathless and trying too hard to look surprised, I played calm. I pretended I'd been home all along. I pretended nothing in my world was broken. He swore he turned around because he lost his wallet. He blamed traffic, an accident, anything except the truth. When I pointed to the sofa cushion where I had placed the wallet earlier, his shoulders dropped with relief he did not deserve. He embraced me, and that was when I smelled it. Perfume that wasn't mine. Lauren's. My lips smiled, but my heart didn't move. I told him to shower, to rest, to unwind. While water steamed behind the bathroom door, I moved to his leather briefcase. The one he never left home without, not even for an hour. I slipped the microphone into a tiny inner pocket and closed it, just as he walked out wrapped in a towel. He thanked me for being patient. He had no idea patience was the blade I was about to use. That night we slept beneath the same roof, but not beside the same truth. Caleb drifted into deep, peaceful sleep, unaware that the woman inches away was listening for every breath, every move. I lay awake, phone in hand, waiting for morning, waiting for the device in his briefcase to light up like a confession. It happened just before sunrise. A vibration on my screen. Signal active. Microphone live. Caleb was in his car, on speaker, dialing a number I didn't recognize. A second later, a woman's voice answered, low and tense. Lauren. The same woman who used to help me choose dresses, who hugged me like family, who stood next to my husband waiting for me to vanish. Their call wasn't sweet, it was frantic. Caleb cursed the police, cursed the timing, cursed the interference that ruined their plan. His voice cracked when he admitted he owed more than $200,000 in gambling debt. If he didn't pay soon, men would show up at his office, his home, his life. Everything I thought he built with hard work was slipping through his hands like sand. Lauren pushed him, hard. She reminded him of the warehouse, an old storage building once owned by my father. Rumors said a safe there held gold and deeds, but only I knew the combination. Caleb agreed he needed it. Needed me. Needed my signature more than he ever needed my presence. He promised he would soften me. Buy gifts, speak gently, win me over like he once did. He didn't know softness was the last thing left in me. The next morning I did not cry, confront, or crumble. I brewed coffee. I made breakfast. I waited. Caleb came home early, flowers in one hand and a small pharmacy bag in the other. His voice was gentle, too gentle, the kind someone uses when they are trying to guide a sheep toward a gate it will never return through. He told me he worried about me. Told me I looked pale. Told me he bought something to help restore my energy. Imported vitamins, he said, strong, expensive, perfect for my health. The seal on the bottle was uneven, lifted at the edge, glued down again like someone had opened it and hoped I wouldn't notice. I twisted off the cap later when he wasn't watching. One capsule slid into my palm, white powder leaking from a hairline crack across the side. It did not smell like vitamins. It smelled like chemicals and endings. At dinner, he slid the bottle closer to my plate. His gaze never left my hand. Just take one, Naomi. Start today. I excused myself, walked to the kitchen, let one capsule fall down the drain, and replaced it with a mint the same size and shape. I returned to the table, swallowed it slowly, let him watch. He smiled. Believed progress had begun. The next 3 days I emptied more capsules, flushed them, left the bottle looking lighter each night. I jogged in the mornings, cooked meals, laughed softly when he walked into the room. And every time he looked at me, healthy and bright, confusion carved itself deeper into his face. He thought poison was killing me. But it was killing his plan instead. On the 4th morning, I made a decision. If Caleb's weapon was subtlety, then mine would be precision. I called him at work with a light voice he did not deserve. I told him I wanted to celebrate the fact that we had moved past the stress of the missing wallet. I suggested dinner at home that night, just us. Candlelight, good food, fresh breath between old wounds. Then I added one more line, one designed to test the nerves of both traitors. I told him I missed Lauren, and asked if he thought inviting her would be nice. There was a long silence on the other end. I could hear his mind racing, weighing risk against reward, lies against opportunity. He finally agreed with a smile I could hear through the phone. That evening, I set the dining table like preparing a stage. White porcelain, silver cutlery, burgundy napkins folded like quiet warnings. I cooked tenderloin, roasted vegetables, poured wine that tasted like resolve. I dressed simply, modestly, nothing loud or flashy. Lauren arrived in red. Her dress hugged her body like confidence made of fabric. She handed me a gift bag and kissed both my cheeks, her perfume the same scent that lingered on Caleb's skin days earlier. They exchanged glances so quick most eyes would miss them. Mine did not. We ate. We spoke of trivial things. Caleb laughed too often. Lauren watched me like she was waiting for me to crumble. Instead, I placed my fork down, lifted my glass, and began to speak. I told them about a dream I claimed to have had. A wealthy wife, a charming husband, a trusted friend. A chloroform plan at an airport. A bottle of altered vitamins. A sudden disappearance. The more I spoke, the paler they became. Lauren's fork slipped from her hand. Caleb coughed like his own lies were stuck in his throat. I smiled gently and said I was grateful it was only a dream. Because a husband and a best friend could never do something so monstrous. Their silence screamed louder than any confession. And then I delivered the final cut. I told them I had changed my will that afternoon. Every asset, house, stocks, land, accounts would go directly to children's charities if I died under suspicious circumstances. Neither of them would receive a single cent. Their eyes shattered. Mine held steady. Caleb and Lauren left my home that night with quiet footsteps and louder fear. A future built on my death no longer promised wealth, it promised nothing. But desperation is a powerful fuel, and Caleb was already burning. The next evening he sent a message saying he would be working late at the office. A lie. He was meeting 3 men in a roadside cafe miles away, men whose shoulders were broad, whose voices were low, whose eyes scanned exits more often than menace. I know this because Marcus was watching. Caleb promised them a payout if they could force me to sign away everything I owned. Not kill me. Break me. Lauren waited for him at her apartment, pacing like a trapped animal while debt collectors flooded Caleb's phone with warnings and deadlines. Pressure tightened around them like rope. When night fell again, a black van rolled toward my house-tinted windows, engine too quiet, intent too loud. Caleb unlocked the door with the spare key he had hidden months ago. They rushed through the rooms like wolves tasting blood that was already gone. Because the house was empty. As if nothing and no one had ever lived there. In the center of my living room, a laptop blinked awake. A video call opened automatically, and there I was calm, composed, sitting in a hotel room miles away. Caleb's face drained of color. Lauren's lips parted but no sound left them. I told them I knew who they brought with them. I told them my lawyer and 2 police contacts were watching the live feed from hidden cameras placed throughout the house. I told them I was done running. They wanted a signature to steal my future. Instead, I handed them a direction that would end theirs. I told Caleb there was money. Not in banks. Not in accounts he already tried to steal. I told him about an old textile warehouse my father once owned on the edge of the industrial district, a forgotten building swallowed by weeds and rust. I said that beneath the floor, under the 7th machine station, a safe was buried filled with cash and gold, enough to erase every dollar he owed. I even gave him the combination. Our wedding date, reversed. Poetic in a way only betrayal can be. Caleb slammed the laptop shut as if cutting the call meant cutting my control. He and Lauren piled into the van with their hired men and sped through miles of cracked pavement and broken streetlights. They did not notice the sedan following at a distance. Marcus driving. I beside him, silent, steady, watching the red GPS dot blink across my phone screen. When the van stopped, they broke the warehouse gate and stormed inside. Their voices echoed through the hollow building. Metal clanged. Concrete cracked under crowbars and sledgehammers. 45 minutes passed, sweat dripped, rage fueled them. And then they found it. A metal safe, heavy and cold, exactly where I said it would be. Caleb's hand shook as he turned the dial. It clicked open like a mouth revealing truth. No gold. No money. Only documents. Copies of his gambling debts. proof of forged signatures, bank transfers to Lauren, photographs of the two of them entering hotels, boarding flights, kissing behind my back. On the very top, an envelope. In my handwriting. For those who thought I would die quietly. Floodlight beams suddenly tore through the windows. Sirens split the night. SWAT units stormed the warehouse. Caleb dropped the papers like they were fire. And in a way they were. The warehouse filled with shouts, metal boots, and commands that echoed like thunder. In the chaos, Caleb fell to his knees, eyes wide, hands shaking. Lauren tried to run but was pushed down by her own momentum and fear. Then the officers stepped aside for me. I walked into that cold cement room wearing a pale coat and steady breath. Marcus stood a step behind me like the last promise my father ever gave. Caleb crawled forward, begging through tears, saying he was confused, manipulated, desperate, anything but guilty. Lauren screamed that she never meant to hurt me, that love twisted her judgment. But I remembered the airport window, the red dress, the suitcases, the chloroform meant for my silence. I told them quietly that I had given them chances. One at the curb where I almost died. One at the dinner table when I spoke of my dream. One with the new will that freed me even if I didn't survive. They chose greed every time. 6 months later, the court didn't hesitate. Audio files, video footage, bank records, forged documents, every piece of truth laid them bare. Caleb received a long sentence for attempted murder, fraud, and forgery. Lauren faced her own years behind concrete walls. And I rebuilt. I repainted my home, took back my company, and learned to breathe without permission. I still wear my father's values, but now I wear them with armor. Sometimes healing looks like soft mornings and coffee alone. Sometimes it looks like a woman boarding a plane with no one to carry but herself. If my story reached something in you, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs strength, and tell me where you're listening from. You are allowed to rise. You are allowed to begin again.